Hey guys, today I just wanted to talk about what I'm playing at the moment. I've revisited, or well, had a first look for me at Tom Clancy's The Division 2. The reason I picked it up is that I was kind of getting a little bit bored with some of the games I was playing and looking for something new. I'd always heard about The Division 2 and just hadn't ever had a chance to pick it up. And it recently came onto Game Pass, so I downloaded it and thought I'd give it a go. Give it a crack and see what's up. First off, it's not what I expected. Actually, like looking at the game on the first outing, I thought it was going to be like extremely linear, story-based and driven that way. But I've played maybe 5 or 6 hours now, probably, or maybe slightly longer. Some of the things I'm really impressed with about the game, like I'm enjoying the movement and gunplay. It's really quite satisfying. Got really good mechanics, like the things like the recoil is really nice and smooth. Swapping between weapons is cool. And I didn't realise how much I'd enjoy the kind of the specials or the utility skills that you get. You get to build two. One just starts off as like a basic kind of scanner thing, and then you can get these turrets or hives, and I think I've been playing with one of the turrets with like a flamethrower that you can throw out and does damage to kind of near enemies, and then this kind of cool little gadget called the hive, which locks on and fires I don't know, some sort of projectile at enemies and like takes them down or gives them things. So they're like good for situations. So it's not just a run and gun. Early on I thought that's how it was going to be because it was relatively easy in the early levels, but as you start to get through, the AI kind of kicks in a little bit, the enemies start to do some more damage, and you do die. If you put yourselves in tricky situations, you're going to go down and the AI is going to take you out. Like, it's not like the world-class AI, but it does a reasonable job of trying to flank you and trying to flush you out with snipers or like heavier enemy. There's a lot going on. You can pick up these little messages and things as you go to get start piecing the story together. And one thing I did like was like how dynamic gameplay was, is that you start off and you think it's quite linear, going from A to B, go here, do this, go here, do this, come back, level up, go and do harder things. That's kind of the gist. But on the side of that, you've got things like the weather's dynamic. So it can be raining and foggy, and it's harder to see the enemies, it's harder for them to see you. There's like these little side missions that happen, like the public executions, or a member of the public is in danger and you have to, you have a few minutes to the side to go and solve that. So that's like really quite cool. So you're not just running from A to B, like stuff's happening in the environment as you go. And then you can kind of you get to an area and it's held down by the hyenas or the other bad guys, and you have to take those out in the locality just to like get that pinned down, and then you've got another base of a small base of operations where you can kind of restock and do some cool things. So the other things like I really like about the game is there's like modding to the weapons. Like you can craft and unlock attachments, like muzzle brakes, suppressors. What else was there? There was like different scopes for your gun, and then there's like obviously the cosmetic stuff like skins. Like there's plenty of clothes and things to change your character and character look, and start to look quite cool and a bit more apocalyptic ready, which is sweet. And then there's all the gear that you carry. Like, what I do really like is that you start off with basic gear. You obviously look like a standard kind of mercenary dude, and you pick up things like your backpacks, knee pads, gloves, body armor along the way, and that is all like completely customizable and gives you different attributes. And then you start looking at your inventory and you start playing around with, well, what's the best for you? And there's some like clever things in there, like if you get all pieces of kit the same brand, gives you like an extra perk on top. So that's really good. I haven't played any of the multiplayer yet, or like the online stuff. It's definitely something I want to get into. I did want to get to a reasonable level first and kind of explore the game, make sure I've got my mechanics down, because I'm still making a few mistakes there. That's one other thing with the mechanics, actually, just as a side note, is that sometimes, it reminds me a little bit of Gears of War, when you're doing that low crouch running and you're hiding behind barriers and things, and it, when it sticks to the environment too much and you kind of get stuck on a corner and you're trying to release yourself, it's a bit clunky. But apart from that, it's all pretty fluid. You can vault, hop over things. And one of the things I do like with the mechanics, actually, is that you can kind of select where you want to go and you hold the button down and your character will run towards that next cover. And that's just like, I thought, I wasn't sure at the start of that mechanic, but it's actually pretty cool. Okay, so just back to the online stuff. I've seen plenty of players online. I don't know anything about the levels or anything, but I've seen some crazy numbers, so I'm pretty sure some of you and some people have been putting many hours into that, just trying to persuade a couple of friends to get the game as well, so we can maybe go in and do some missions together and have a look at what that's like. I'm assuming it can get quite tough as you go up the levels and play around with that. One thing that is outstanding of a game from 2019 is that if this was released today, graphically, you'd be really happy with it. There's so much detail here. Some of the levels are just amazing. I played one of the earlier levels, which I think is on some of this footage here, which is the American History Museum. And you're going through the museum and you're seeing the different things in the museum, and it just it's really cool. Like, the attention to detail that they put into the game is awesome. It's great to see that the developers here have put that level of detail into the game. So you just don't see it these days, or when you do, it's kind of should be the standard. So I feel like I'm playing even though it's like a 4 or 5 year old game, it definitely feels like it belongs today, and I'd be more than happy with anything that looked like this graphically with this level of detail if it was delivered today. I think that's part of the problem with some of the titles that are coming out. They try and do a little too much, and the elements of online play and the way that the matchmaking works with some of these modern games, not entirely sure it fits with how I like to play. I think what you could kind of compare this to would be the Warzone DMZ that came out a couple of years ago, where you would go in as a group of friends and you, especially against the environment stuff, you'd go and do some missions and strongholds, and you would try and pick up the best loot and you would extract. There's a little bit of that here. You obviously go and do a mission, and then you extract and go back to your base of operations. I don't know if online there is PvP. There could be. If any of you know or do play PvP on this game, please let me know in the comments. Let me know how I should go about that and what kind of level I should be to play that. I think that could be a really cool experience, especially if it is PvP VE. That would be really good as well. So I look forward to that. The game is it's not trying to be realistic. It's very obviously, when you get the hit markers and the damage that you do, there is kind of a semi-arcade casual feel about it. But I'm actually okay with that. Sometimes we lose sight of what games are in terms of, pick up and play and just enjoy. And that's what I'm getting from this at the moment. I'm just really enjoying playing the game, picking it up. It's very rare these days that I will play more than a couple of hours and then I'll uninstall games because they're just not interesting. But this has just kept me going, and I found myself wanting to play it. Yeah, I found myself wanting to play the game and coming back, and then obviously trying to figure out time when I can slide it in with other things. I think why I do like it, and I like the story elements, I love post-apocalyptic games. I love that kind of environment. But most of the games that you play have an element of zombies or some kind of monster that you're fighting. And this is a little bit more grounded in a real-world reality of what a future could look like, and it's set in Washington DC, which is a cool city. Obviously that sets the backdrop for the whole political element to the game, and I feel like it's kind of really relevant today in 2025. you know, with everything that's happening in the world, and with the divisions politically and socio-economically, this game is talking to a potential future that we could have. And yeah, there isn't anything fantastical yet, apart from some of the technology, obviously, which just makes it a little bit slicker and cooler. The world that's been built is definitely set in the real world in terms of the buildings, the cars, and the way that looks. The cool thing is that if anyone lives in Washington DC, like, please comment, like, is this real model of some of the streets? Like, is this how it's laid out, or is this just purely been designed in game to represent the majority of DC? So it'd be really interesting to see some of the thoughts there on what that might be like. Obviously, the White House is the main base of operations, and there's some of the museums and stuff, and I don't know if any of you have been to any of those real life POIs, but just be interesting to see if they are real and how accurate the game is to that. So that would be quite cool. Another thing that you can do is you can upgrade your base. So as you progress the story through, the bases will get slightly better. Some of the things I think I've done, one of the bases has got hydroponics, so they're like growing food and stuff for themselves now, and you know, they can, what was it, the other one had a canteen that it's boosted morale. And then I think I've just got solar panels for one of them. I'm not really sure how that works. It's just the AI voiceover thing has been telling me that that's happening, so that's quite cool. And you see it in real time, you know, you see the changes in the bases and stuff, so I'm sure they're going to get upgraded quite well as you progress through the game and the missions and stuff, so that's pretty cool. There were some really cool times in the game where I seemed to have got a hang of my special abilities or my skills, and actually laughed out loud at a couple of moments where I think there's one coming up where I was going into past a checkpoint and threw out the turret and just fried everyone going in, and just little things like that were just like really satisfying to do. The sniping is pretty cool. It's just smooth. You're not worrying about all of this sway and stuff. It just works, and it's quite nice just to get like shot after shot off on the enemies, like taking them down, taking the headshots down, and then mixing it up with your assault rifle or whatever. So I really enjoyed the combat. Like I said earlier, some of it does feel a little like Gears of War, just the mechanics and how that works. But this feels a little bit better. There's that, I wouldn't say realism, but there's a level of more grittiness to it, which sounds crazy when you're talking about Gears of War. But there isn't kind of that cartoon violence that you get with Gears of War. I think that's what I'm trying to say. If you're looking for something to play either solo, firstly, because that's what I'm doing at the moment, I'll definitely look at picking this up. It is available on Game Pass right now. How long that lasts, I don't know, but get it and just give it a go, because if you haven't played it, it is a really good game. It's just, there's definitely enough here for most people and how we like to play games. I'm someone who gets quite immersed in games and enjoys the story and environment, and for me, this ticks all the boxes, and there's definitely enough of a challenge to keep me interested with different things going on with the upgrades and, you know, different ways to play. So I'm quite interested to see how that could work going forward, you know, with the different skills and things, and, you know, just adjusting your gameplay to suit what's happening. And then I think I'll see how I go in the future and maybe get another video out there with some of the PvP, if that's a thing, or definitely the online stuff when I get into some groups and some teams and see what all that's about. So stand by for that later down the line. So yeah, that's why you should be playing this game in 2025. It's always a mission of mine to look back through back catalogues and find games that I've either missed or that were just overlooked at the time of release. And this was definitely one that was, it's a pretty big one that a lot of you are probably screaming out going, how the hell did you not play this game? Hey, really thanks for watching and sticking around to hear my views on The Division 2. If you enjoyed that and you want to check out some more of my content, please do. It really helps support me growing the channel, and like and subscribe and comment. I always try and get to every comment. I really appreciate your support. Thanks very much, and thanks for watching. Cheers.